Ay,
Gustavo,
espérate.
how are you?
Good morning, my man. How are you? Good morning.
I'm good. I'm
Good
good. Thank
morning. Good
you
morning.
for having
How are
giving
you
us a
guys?
few minutes. No, we're good. Happy to have you.
No, thank you, man. Always a pleasure. As long as whenever I can and I'm available, it will be a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well,
I'm
let's.
co- I'm and my apologies. I'm connecting through my mobile because I have a I'm remodeling my office, so I'm sitting here in a desk to attend the call. But let's jump into it.
No worries. Appreciate you.
Oh, my pleasure, my man. What's up?
So what was the biggest thing, right? There was something people kept asking you online, and you're
Yep.
the Teofimo situation. Obviously, let's
Yep.
start there.
Yeah.
Have you guys had your meeting yet? And what do you think is going to come from this situation with Teofimo Lopez? He's actually backtracking. I watched the video today where he says that he asked for where's the liquor at.
Right.
Yeah. Well, since last week, I've been receiving tweets or being tagged in tweets as to whether the WBO has a position as to the remarks made by Teofimo. From the outset, regardless of which fighter we're talking about, as long as if I have jurisdiction on only WBO champions, right? We have a strong policy against racism or any type of conduct that is contrary to our principles as a sanctioning body, and we don't discriminate based on race, color, religion, social condition, etc. So I talked to his team, his managers, Keith Connolly, Mike Borrell. I strongly advise his managers to convey to Teofimo that the WBO will not tolerate any type of racism or any related conduct of that nature under no circumstances. Um, some people say that the remarks said the N word. Others stated that it was liquor. Um, so I saw the video. My interpretation was as to the word liquor as well, but we can't be ingenuous, in the sense of we have to take affirmative action as to any type of related conduct of that nature. And under my presidency, we will not tolerate any sort of racism or any conduct that it would be in controversial to our rules or principles or policies. So basically, what we did was an admonishment to Tio through his management, and I have to be. I have to any type of affirmative action that I take against a champion, I have to have all the facts and before the WBO, and I have to proceed in accordance with my rules and due process. I cannot strip a champion without having all the relevant facts or supporting evidence and proof, reliable proof before the WBO, and I have to take every step within my rules in order to take that ultimate action. You get me?
Tone?
Oh, yeah, I understand that. But Tio, he's had a track record of kind of like innuendos, like when he said to snatch the banana from Terrence Crawford and Gervonta Tank Davis, then
Mm-hmm.
the eating of the banana
Mm-hmm.
um, with Keyshawn Davis when somebody sent Keyshawn Davis some sort of racist box. Um, and like I respectfully, I think Tio is it
I mean, the
insulting.
video, right? I mean, he literally said on video with Terrence Crawford, I'm doing it for publicity. And
Yeah,
Terrence says, all right, y'all see, that's why I won't fuck him up. But it's numerous different, like he's, I don't know. I just feel like he's getting carried away.
yeah,
No,
and it's a,
trust me, guys. You have to consider. Remember, any WBO participant that is under our jurisdiction is entitled to certain rights, particularly due process. So, in order for me to strip a champion or take a definitive action that has significant consequences, I have to have all the facts, the supporting evidence, reliable proof. I cannot base my decisions on hearsay, on interpretations, on incompleted facts, misleading. I'm not saying that's what happened in this case. I'm just saying that there's a process that I have to follow before I take that ultimate relief, which is ultimately stripping a champion. I have to have everything in order before I take an action of that nature. So trust me and rest assured, he's one more action by Teofimo or any of the other fighters that would warrant our intervention of stripping him or withdrawing or terminating his status as champion, we will take the proper actions. But I have to have all the proper facts, reliable proof, supporting evidence. There's got to be a process. Remember, I'm a licensed attorney, so I have to do everything in accordance with my rules and in accordance with the law.
Right. And but I'm saying he literally says he's done with the racism, so he's acknowledging that he is race baiting, and I think he's insulting black people's intelligence with where's the liquor at? Like we know what he said. We know he had some beef with well, they have a beef with Terrence Bud Crawford.
Yeah,
And I mean, the WBC, they stripped Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia got up out them rankings. Mauricio told
they
that
sh-
man like, hey,
they strip him about what he hasn't
I
he
mean, they
hasn't won
removed
it.
them from the
He
rankings. They removed them from the rankings. Yeah, they removed them
based on what grounds?
based on Ryan Garcia's his
I think he
drunken.
had I think he had multiple instances of prohibited conducts. I think it was a the I think he was he made multiple remarks. He had conducted himself in contravention to the rules. I think there were multiple scenarios on a consecutive basis that warranted the BC to take some action, but he wasn't stripped of any title because he hasn't won a championship. I think he was excluded from the ratings. I think he was also inactive. That's another type of scenario. At least the WBO, I can take action as to the circumstances I have before me under my presidency. I cannot consider any previous instances that were under another presidency. My past the past president, my mentor, Paco Varcarso. So those are the facts and the circumstances that I have before me. Um, but certainly I'm going to be vigilant, because I can't remember. You have to consider the following. For example, when a fighter tests, let's say an example, when a fighter tests positive for a prohibited substances, we have to consider the circumstances of the particular case. Is it a first offense? What type of offense? What are the implications of such offense? And you have to consider all those circumstances in order to determine what type of penalty the sanctioning body will impose on that particular fighter. So I'm just mentioning or making reference to a particular circumstance because it's a case by case analysis. You get me?
Right.
So I want to shift gears to Charlie Suarez. I understand
Yeah,
each sanctioning body is individual and you have your own bylaws. But
yeah.
if the right thing isn't done by the commission, can you step in? Because Suarez will never get that opportunity again. It's almost impossible to ask him to break the skin again. A rematch doesn't do what a win would have done for his life and financially.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's just a very unfortunate situation. What's your stance? And yes, can you do something if the commission does not?
Okay, let me clarify that. from the get go, the WBO has no legal authority or jurisdiction over uh, the conduct of the bout itself. That's a subject matter jurisdiction under the commission. In other words, the state of California, they regulate the event. They regulate the bout. The WBO's jurisdiction is limited only to the title and the ratings, right? So we have to wait until the commission renders a final and definitive ruling in this matter in order for us to determine how to proceed. Now, as to your question whether we can do something, we can surely do something regardless of what the commission rules. We cannot overturn, change, modify an official result registered by the commission. In other words, if the commission now determines that they're going to rule this bout a no contest, for example, if that be the case, that does not prevent the WBO from taking affirmative action in the sense of ordering a rematch if that would be the case. So, as a matter of deference and respect to the local commission, which has the jurisdiction over the conduct of the bout. Once they make a final and definitive ruling, we will convene as a committee and we will determine the next proper steps in accordance to our rules, whether that would be an immediate rematch, etc. But we can surely take our rules provide me um, an alternative to as to this issue between Navarrete and Suarez.
And what was the fighter that Suarez fought to even get ranked?
I think Suarez defeated Cortez. Cortez was
Uh,
highly ranked.
which Cortez?
Andres Cortez, Andres Cortez, if I believe correctly, for a WBO regional title. I think Cortez was highly
Huh.
ranked.
I hope you're right because I thought Cortez was undefeated. What the heck? Yeah, he's
Can you check
undefeated.
a boxer?
Yeah, he's
Let me see.
undefeated. I'll
Let
screenshot
me
it.
check that real. Let me check that real quick to be because let me check. Come on, let me see. Let me see.
No worries.
I'll
Take
tell
your
you right
time.
now.
For those that are just tuning in, we're live with the WBO president, Gustavo Olivieri, and he is now checking
Olivieri,
this.
Olivieri, Olivieri,
Olivieri.
Olivieri.
Olivieri, and he is now checking the status of Charlie Suarez and what fight got him ranked.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you. I'll tell you. I'll tell you. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. To be, we're talking about 17 weight classes, 15 fighters per weight class. That's 255 fighters. So that could be. Let me see. Let me see. He didn't. He has not won a WBO regional title, but he's got the merits to be rated, man. He's fought 10 rounders. He's fought 8 rounders. Technically, Nelson, uh, per the ABC. Let me see. Per the ABC ratings criteria, a fighter may receive a top rating within the sanctioning bodies to the WBO is within the top 15 if you have at least 2 fights scheduled at 10 or 4 fights scheduled at 8. So technically, he's entitled to be rated if he was requested to be installed, and he was requested to be installed and within the top 15. Now the question is,
When you say
and I have
requested, just to be clear, when you say requested, that's requested by his team or by his promoter.
it could be either by his team, his promoter, or the WBO motu proprio, which is a legal term. Like our, we have the power itself to check within all the fighters in boxing in that particular weight division and check within the monthly changes in the ratings. Okay, we can add this guy, we can exclude that guy, we can move up, move down. As long as the fighter has at least 2 fights scheduled for 10 rounds conducted, or 4 scheduled for 8 rounds, right? And a positive record, he's technically entitled to be granted a top rating within a sanctioning body. Now the question is, and I have to do that due diligence. Uh, what was his track record to occupy the number one position? That's homework I have to do to give you the answer because I don't have it at this time.
You know I'm gonna throw the name Albert Bell. He's got numerous 10 rounders.
Bring it,
Numerous,
bring it. No, but he
numerous
was,
10
but Nelson,
rounders. Nestor.
Nestor, my apology, Nestor. Albert Bell was rated, and and I've discussed this multiple times in different interviews and also through social media. He reached the number one spot, but you can occupy that number one spot under multiple scenarios, not necessarily because you defeated a rated contender. The problem with Bell, and we have advised his team on numerous occasions, and we have this in writing, he hasn't fought a rated contender. You cannot become a mandatory challenger if you have not defeated rated contenders. That's very simple, and and our rules provide that criteria. You can be, and let me explain to you a scenario that is very simple, so your followers and your fans can understand. Let's say you have Albert Bell was rated number four, right? He won a regional title. He went up in the natural in the normal circumstances of changes on a monthly basis. Let's say he got to the number four spot. Let's say the number one fighter won a title from another sanctioning body, so he's technically unavailable. He gets excluded. So number two moves to number one, number three to number two, number four to number three. Albert's number three. Then the number two, then the number one again is inactive because he got injured and he won't be available to fight for 1 year. That number one is excluded, and then number two moves to number one, number three to number two, and then you have the number one again loses a particular bout, and then he gets demoted, and Albert gets to number one automatically by default. That was his circumstance. He didn't get he he didn't get to number one because he had fought rated opposition. He got to number one because of default. And you may argue, well, that was maybe that's a problem you guys have. There was poor oversight, and why he occupied the number one spot if he hasn't defeated a rated contender, and that is a valid argument. Well, that was not under my presidency, right? I have to be very objective and truthful to you. But he hasn't fought a rated contender. You could occupy the number one position, but you have to check his track record to see, oh, let me see how he got to the number one spot. You see, that's Albert Bell's uh, track record. Those are the facts. And there's people that has, oh, but why haven't you ordered an elimination bout between Albert Bell and another rated contender? Because in order for the BO to order an elimination bout, it has to be between fighters that have defeated rated opposition. And
So
in another, and
based,
another, and let me finish. And
go
another,
ahead.
and another argument is the WBO orders elimination bouts when it's warranted in a particular weight class. Because if we are, at least under my presidency, I'm striving to find the proper ways or mechanisms to justify having a worthy mandatory challenger. Because if I do it correctly, I not only benefit the champion, also the challenger, the promoter, the TV network. Because you guys and the fans, you guys don't want to see a champion fighting a nobody, right?
Right.
So you have to carefully consider each particular scenario per division, because remember, Nestor, it's a case by case analysis. And at the same time, if there's no mandatory pending, why would you order an elimination bout? The winner of that elimination bout is entitled to certain rights. And if I order an elimination bout right now in 130 pounds, and Navarrete is in his voluntary stage, the winner of that elimination bout can stay there waiting 1 year and freezes the division. You get me? So
Mm.
I rather authorize or sanction regional titles and keep the division active. And when the mandatory comes, either the highest available contender that has defeated rated opposition is designated the mandatory, or we do an elimination bout between the highest two rated contenders that have defeated rated opposition. Because sometimes we did that with Catterall and Barbosa. And people were saying, "Oh, this is a legitimate one versus two fighters fighting for the mandatory for Tio. Two two great fighters, one and two, that both had deserving or merited arguments as to becoming the mandatory, similar records. And that was like the definitive fight for both of them to become the mandatory for Tio, because you don't want to force. People have to understand this is a sport, but intertwined with the business aspect and entertainment, right? That's the truth. So we have to at least find a way to at least benefit all the components of that particular case, whether it's the fighters, the promoters, the managers, the other stakeholders, the TV, the networks, the media, the fans, because w- you can't just order a mandatory for the sake of it with an undeserving contender. It is a disservice for the champion, for the challenger, for the TV network, for the promoter, etc.
It sounds like popularity comes into play, um, especially when you're saying TV network. But not to keep harping on this situation, but you ordered the 2 and 4, and now based off of your answer, it sounds like you ordered 2 and 4 in Liam Wilson and Oscar Valdez because it's better for the network. Oscar is more known. It's a bigger fight, not only for the network but for the WBO as well. But again, Albert Bell
We
got
didn't. No, no,
skipped.
no, no. Let me clarify that, Nestor. We didn't order anything. We didn't order Wilson against Valdez. We simply sanctioned that fight. Remember, I can,
Yeah, but
I
he
cannot.
won the interim title on that fight, and that's why he fought
No,
Navarrete.
yeah, that is true, but we didn't order that fight. That fight simply the parties agreed on doing that fight, and Navarrete was moving up to 135 to face Baranchek, and we did the interim in light of those particular
But
circumstances.
that's what
We
I'm
didn't order
saying,
that.
Gustavo. But that's what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
yeah,
Albert Bell was
but you
number
can't.
one, and Archie Sharp
But
was
you
number 3, and you didn't order them.
that
You
is
didn't put nothing on
th-
the line for them.
but you Nestor, but you cannot order a fight for an interim title between two rated guys that have not defeated rated opposition.
But they
Check
were gonna
Liam's
fight each
records.
other. Albert Bell and Archie Sharp were they
Uh huh.
they were gonna fight each other. You all you had to do was make Archie Sharp fight Albert Bell, not make, but order the fight. Number one
But
and number 3, but instead you
no,
did number 2 with number
but let me.
four.
I can understand the argument, but I cannot
Not argument,
remember Nestor.
confusion. We're
Okay, no,
confused.
but let me clarify because it's a valid point. You would say why wouldn't the WBO ordered 1 and 3, Bell and Sharp? Because neither fighter had defeated rated opposition, Nestor. I cannot order, I cannot issue a ruling contrary to what my rules provide. We allowed, instead of ordering, we allowed Valdez and Wilson because both had defeated rated opposition, former champion, former world title contender. They have different records and accomplishments in comparison to Sharp and Bell, who neither of them have fought rated opposition. Those are the facts. If you check Liam records, if you check Liam Wilson's record and Oscar Valdez's record, totally different merits than Bell and Sharp. Neither Bell nor Sharp have defeated rated opposition. I cannot order a fight between two rated guys that have not faced rated opposition. Those are the facts.
I'm gonna check because honestly, I only remember Liam Wilson for giving a great fight with Navarrete, but he didn't win. So I
But he
don't.
fought rated. But check Liam.
But we're
Check
gonna have to
Liam
move on.
Wilson's
We're gonna have
record.
to move on because now you're gonna
No,
tell me
man.
fighting and not winning is enough. If Liam
No, no,
didn't
I'm
beat
telling.
Navarrete, what does it
No,
matter
but
that
let
you fought
no
that
no no.
competition? You didn't
But
beat him.
let me let me explain this, sir. So you can. And I love this because we're going back and forth, and it's an informative, educational for the
No, for
fans,
sure. I
and
want to
and
learn
and
myself.
and clarifying. Let me explain. If you check Liam Wilson's box rec, you will
I'm on it.
see that within a particular period, he defeated rated opposition, contrary to Bell and Sharp that have not faced rated opposition. In light thereof, Liam Wilson had more merits to fight for the title than Bell and Sharp. As to Valdez, former world champion and has defeated multiple rated opponents. So I cannot order a fight for the title or the interim between fighters that have not faced rated opposition.
Can
That's
I
the
can I get
difference.
the definition of rated opposition? What exactly does that mean to you?
Well, in other words, if you're rated number two, for example, you fight a guy rated number five, number six, number 10, 11, 12, 13, up to 15. If you, it's like if I'm rated number four, for example, and I fight a guy rated number 10, and I defeat that guy, for our records, you defeated a rated contender. Albert Bell entered the WBO ratings because he had won a regional title, the NABO, which is fair, right? That's certainly a sure pathway within to be considered within the top 15. He won an NABO. And then our office, through our executive director, she advised his team, "Hey, congratulations on winning an NABO title. In order to keep moving up the ratings, you should defend the title, but also, most importantly, you need to defeat rated opposition." And sometimes you got fighters moving up the ladder because of the normal changes on a monthly basis in the ratings. Fighters get in, out, moved up, down, inactive, committed, unavailable, a legal impediment, wins another title. Different circumstances. Now, that was the past. Under my presidency, I'm striving my best to correct these maybe oversight that made people, oh, that guy's number one, he never got a shot at the title. So in order to avoid those misconceptions or confusions or concerns, I'm a little bit more vigilant in that regard to avoid having a fighter occupying the number one position. And the people, oh, but he's number one. In the WBO, you need to be more than number one. You need to defeat rated opposition to become the mandatory. Because then you have the problem on the flip side, Nestor, that you have a guy number one, we make him the mandatory, and you guys would be, oh, who's that guy? He's never fought nobody. That's a cab driver. That's a bum. That and we had, and let me tell you, we do you remember when Janibek fought a guy called in 160? He was a guy from the UK. Uh, Janibek had a problem in finding opponents, right? And he went through the list, one, two, three, four, five, and he got a guy. I think it was 11 or 12 or 10, something like that. I don't remember his name. He had won a regional title, a guy from the UK. When they fought, we got huge backlash, and rightfully so. The guy had occupied a top 15 rated position, but he when he fought Janibek, he wasn't at the level. Right, that was a couple of years back, but that's an example of why we have to be more vigilant as to fighters complying with the required criteria, because you want the best talent in your ratings. That when the time comes, you have a good fight like Suarez and Navarrete. It was a terrific fight. Wouldn't you agree?
It was a good fight. I
Yeah,
just wish
yeah.
Suarez would have got the win. He deserved the
Well, but
TKO.
we will have to see what's going to happen. But rest assured, Nestor, I'm going to take the proper steps to comply with my rules upon the commission rendering the ruling. But it is very important that the fans, the media, they need to know all the facts, right? And do what you're doing, questioning, scrutinizing,
I'm
asking
not
the
done.
proper questions.
I'm
No,
not
come
done.
on.
I'm just waiting for an opportunity because if we shift to Xander, Xander's fought no WBO rated opposition unless the WBO doesn't print it. I can't find anything. Patrick Teixeira wasn't even ranked in the WBO. Slaughter,
Okay.
whatever, Damian Sosa, none of them were ranked in the WBO.
What I'm gonna do, Nestor, I'm gonna
Not top
send you. I'm gonna.
15. Not top 15.
I'm gonna.
Excuse me.
No, no. No. That's not accurate. He's fought
Okay.
some rated opposition. I'll send you. I'll send you the resolution by email, and you can post it in your website,
For
or
sure.
where we make reference of all his opponents. since he entered the ratings and the dates when he fought them. And you go on our website and you go to the ratings and you check the date of the particular fight. When for example, Xander fought on June 25, let's say, for example, right? June 25, 2020. If that will be the, let's say this is the example. Xander fought on June 25, 2025. You go to our ratings for that particular month, and if you see the fighter rated there, he fought a rated opponent. I'm going to send you the resolution where we make reference to his track record as to the fighters he has fought during his time as a rated fighter. So he has fought rated opposition. So technically, it has satisfied the required criteria to be designated as a mandatory challenger. He inherited the position to be the mandatory. So it is not correct that he has not fought rated opposition.
Do you
And
know
you
who
may
they
have an
are
argument.
though? But do you know who they are? Because
The
his last
the
three,
last one was Spoomer. He was rated. I believe he was I think he was 9 or 10, something like that at that time. I'll tell
um,
you right now. I'll
I
tell you
mean,
right now. Stay there.
Spoomer was
Stay
an
there.
unbeaten
Stay there.
German.
Stay
He was
there. Stay
20
there.
and
Let me
0,
let me
11
check.
KOs. He was coming off a first round knockout of
Yeah.
Adam Nagagi from
Yeah.
November 24th. WBO rank analyst says no source confirmed that Spoomer was in the top
February.
15.
Stay
While he
there.
was a
Stay there.
credible opponent, his lack of mention in the WBO ranking suggests that he was unranked.
No, no. I'll tell you now. Where are you reading this, man?
Good old
I'll
internet.
I'll I'll tell you now. I'll tell you now. I'll tell you right now. Okay, so Xander. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. He fought. Let me see. This is. Let me see when. Give me a second, Nestor. Let me get you the resolution real quick. I'm looking for it. Okay, give me a second, so we can answer everything properly. And this, I'm getting this from the get go, Nestor. Okay,
Hmm.
from the side. Yes. Okay, opening the resolution here. Let me see.
You might be right. People confirming in the chat that Spoomer was ranked.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you right now. Let me see. I'll send you the. I'll send you the resolution. But Spoomer was ranked when he fought Zaya. Let me see when. When. Give me a second.
Spoomer
That's
was
his name.
number 11. Number 11.
11. Yes, 11. 11. Yeah, he was Nestor. He was rated. Yeah, I'll send you the resolution I'm in my phone. I'll send it to you shortly. Okay.
But that was
Yeah,
one
he was.
guy, right? Or is there
No,
more?
he's no, no. There's more. There's more. Remember, Nestor. In order to be the mandatory, y- per our rules, you need to be active. You need to be winning. You need to face rated opposition. You need to be considered an acceptable challenger to the television or the streaming network's platform, etc. All those criteria need to be satisfied. So Xander had he had all the merits to be the mandatory, and he inherited the position when Crawford relinquished his mandatory status because Crawford's going to pursue the fight with Canelo now, you know. And also, you need to be the highest available rated contender, which Saez occupied the position at the time we made the designation.
All right. I got a couple of questions. Do you still have time?
Sure. Yeah, man. Go ahead. What's
I
up?
got C. Smith. Gustavo, are you saying you heard T.O. say, quote unquote, where's the liquor? I just want to confirm.
Can you repeat the question?
He's asking, are you saying that you heard T.O. say, where is the liquor? And he just wants to confirm that that's what you're saying when you said that earlier.
Those were the remarks that were referred to me. I have not seen the totality of the footage.
I have Donald.
Remember,
Oh,
I
go ahead.
cannot remember to explain to address this to the fans. Remember, I have to see the totality of the evidence. I cannot see an extraction of the footage or a a small part of the footage. I have to see the whole thing in the whole context. I'm not trying to justify myself, to be clear. If something's wrong, it's wrong. But as a licensed attorney and have to do things according to the law, I have to see the totality of the circumstances and the whole extraction of the video, the footage,
One way
to
Renzo.
make a proper assessment. Yeah.
Excuse me. Donald from Baton Rouge. What fight do you want to see at the end of the year? Odd question.
I want to see Crawford Canelo, man.
That's a good one. One way Renzo. Tio is one of the faces of the
Yeah.
WBO. Are you happy with how he is representing the organization?
Tio is what I can say is Tio is very controversial, right? He's also an entertainer, a highly skilled athlete. If you meet Tio outside the camera on the flash and the entertainment side, well grounded kid, very helpful for the youth, the kid, very supportive, I would say, when we do things for the kids. He's been very loyal to the WBO. But one thing is those facts, and the other is the constant controversial aspects of his career, or the allegations of his outside the ring antics and that sort of stuff. I have my reservations, certainly, but in light of these the recent controversy, I have to be very vigilant, and if I have to take affirmative action, regardless if it's Tio, I will do it. I have no issue whatsoever. The rules are to be complied, adhered to consistently, regardless of who is the fighter.
Can you explain the status of Brian Norman Jr. and his mandatory or voluntary?
Yep. Norman is going to fight Sasaki. That's a voluntary. Thereafter, he has 6 months to fulfill a mandatory. There's no mandatory challenger at this time designated at the welterweight division.
So Rocha being number one mean that doesn't guarantee him the spot.
Correct. Correct. Did he win his last fight?
I'm pretty
No.
sure.
Right? I think it was a draw. Right?
Alexis Rocha? Let me double check.
Alexis Rocha.
So
I
so
think
what about a
he
guy
fought.
like Rohan Polanco? Can at number 10, can he jump? Because him and Brian Norman been talking back and forth, and you're right, it was a draw with Raul Curiel.
Correct. So Polanco, if he wanted to move up to 147, the process is his promoter and manager would have to request to the WBO, hey, we want to fight in 147. Can you install me
Well,
in the
he's
top
ranked.
15?
He's
No,
ranked in
he's
your
ranking.
number 10 on your
He's
rankings.
Yeah, but he's ranking 140. Norman is 147.
I got him. I'll double check, but I have him at
He's in
46.
147. Norman
Yeah,
Polanco's in 147.
yeah.
Okay, if he's rated in 147, he can fight Norman as a voluntary. He cannot be mandatory. In order to be mandatory, you need to be the highest rated available contender that has satisfied the criteria for such designation. Defeating rated opposition, positive record, being considered an acceptable challenger for the Champions Television Network or streaming platform, etc. At this time, Polanco doesn't satisfy that criteria for the
Okay.
mandatory. If Norman wanted to fight him as a voluntary, if he's rated, no problem.
And he can do that after Sasaki if it's right away in between those 6 months only, right?
That is correct. That is correct, Mister.
We got Why Diggy that says this is Wyatt in Texas. My question is, how do you feel about the
Yeah.
WBC using their power to jump the line for the David Benavidez mandatory for Bivol? That is a great question. Because last time we talked,
That
you were under the impression you were first, and then
no,
Mauricio
no, no,
just
no, no. I'm not first. It is my understanding that
that the IBF,
the
excuse me, the
the
IBF was supposed to be
that that
first.
that the IBF, my understanding, it's that the IBF is first in the rotation system, right? And the agreement amongst the sanctioning body is that the oldest mandatory has to be discharged first, which is the IBF's mandatory. The WBC order their mandatory. That's the question that the fan or you guys must address to the WBC as to why they forced their mandatory. We go after it's the IBF, and I believe, and thereafter it's our turn because the BC had their mandatory, which was Callum Smith. Remember?
Hmm.
Yep.
Um, we got Malcolm in New York. He says, I'm Puerto Rican and African American, and I am very disappointed that you claim to have heard liquor. I have slowed down the clips, and in no
Mm.
way did I hear the letter L get rolled in the beginning of that word. Broner, Devin received way more slurs, no, excuse me, way more backlash from their remarks, which were less severe than Tio's. Some type of fine or punishment should sue, as his racial slurs will probably allow him to get a payday and have other fighters follow his blueprint. Very disappointed, but there's nothing I can do.
Well, duly noted. What I can do is I'll try to get the full footage of these remarks to carefully assess the situation, and and if I have to uh, proceed with another type of remedy or relief and or imposition on Tio, I will do it. That's not a problem.
Nathan, is a lot of Tio questions. Nathan, please confirm,
Yeah.
quote unquote, even if Tio used the N word, end quote, is he protected by the Freedom of Speech Act? Or since the WBO is based outside of the USA, it doesn't apply and the WBO can strip him? Also, remember, Tio has had multiple infractions.
Yeah, yeah, true. No, remember Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory, so technically we are subject to U.S. jurisdiction and federal laws also and state laws. So that's a terrific question. The freedom of speech is not an absolute right. There are certain restrictions as to exercising the right to free speech, whether it's the location, the extent of that free speech, etc. That's a very good question. I would need to carefully analyze the nature of those remarks, the extent of those remarks, in the context of those remarks. So it's not an easy assessment. But I'm gonna
Uh oh.
assess the situation, and again, if I have to take more affirmative actions, I will do so.
I got a side text from Adrian Clark. He's my next interview, and he said, "Tell Gustavo not Olivieri." He said Olivieri,
Olivieri.
Olivieri. He said, "Tell him." He said, "Hello." Then he texted again and said, "We don't want Polanco. Tell Gustavo to approve Norman and Earl Spence." But obviously he's joking. He's joking.
Adrian Clark is my friend, one of the good guys in boxing.
No,
Okay.
he's definitely one of the good guys. I got Rod
Yeah.
in LA. Why hasn't
Yeah.
Albert Bell been ordered to a title eliminator? You already answered that. We're just giving him his credit. We got Quest in the VA. He says,
I
"What's
got a
up?"
question, Nestor. I got a question, Nestor. Have the fans or the media have they questioned Albert Bell why he hasn't faced rated opponents?
I mean, nobody wants to fight a 6 foot, 130 pounder. That's why RC Sharp didn't take the fight.
Well,
But that's what you're there for.
you
You
just
order it. You order it, and now that
yeah,
guy
but the
has
thing,
to fight him.
Ne- Nestor, no, that's not completely true. I can order a fight, but I cannot force the fighters to enter the ring. We
No, for
have
sure.
limited power with we have limited power within our rules, within our jurisdiction.
But with
And there's so
Shakur,
much that I can
Remember
Yeah.
the situation with Shakur? It was like Isak
What?
Cruz didn't want to fight. Then William
Yeah.
Cepeda didn't want to fight. Eventually, he got to the
Yeah.
number 6 and Edwin De Los Santos. That's all we asking you to do. If Archie Sharp don't want to fight, and Liam Smith don't want to, or Liam Williams don't want to fight, and Oscar don't, get to the one that's willing to fight because it's not fair to Albert Bell. Like, you got to understand, Vic Green
Yeah.
isn't Bob Arum.
I
So
know that.
so he's
I know that.
positioned Albert Bell. And it's
But
been
you know
years.
something?
It's been
But you
years
know
of
something?
positioning.
That I told Victor, which is a very nice guy. He's a classy, he's a gentleman. And Albert Bell, he also came to the WBO once to visit the main offices. Great guy. It's in a very unfortunate case. We told Bell, fight a rated opponent, and I'll have within my rules the authority to force it. Because if he had defeated at least one rated contender when he occupied the number one position, he would be in a better position to have standing to say, you know what, WBO? I'm number one, and I defeated a top 15 rated contender. Give me my mandatory shot. And I would have no justifications to disregard that argument. I would have to say, here's the negotiation order. Bell against this guy because Bell defeated a rated contender. He hasn't met that criteria. Simple as that.
Unfortunate situation. We got Quest and VA. What's up? Thanks for your time. Blind rank these fighters. Excuse me. Blind rank these fights. Fundora versus Tim Tszyu. So it's
Yeah.
1 through 5 situation, and he doesn't want me to tell you the next fight. So if you like Tim Tszyu versus Fundora as your number 1 fight, keep in mind you don't know what's coming next.
No, 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 no. I think what I want to see Norman and Sasaki. That should be a fire fight.
Oh no,
I
no,
want
no.
to
He's giving you the fight. So Fundora versus Tim Tszyu. Where do you rank it? 1 through 5. Position.
five,
Okay.
five.
Anthony versus Andy Ruiz. I guess Anthony Joshua versus Andy Ruiz again.
No interest in that fight, none whatsoever.
Devin versus Loma again.
I was there for the first fight. It was a terrific fight, high pace, high level stuff.
Chris Eubank.
Number four, yeah,
Okay, I'm sorry. You were gonna rank that one at number
that's
4.
not no, no, no. That's no, no.
Chris Eubank versus Conor Ben, the rematch.
It was a good fight, but not particularly interested in the rematch. To be honest with you.
And where would you rank Canelo versus Triple G2? The second one.
Oof, that's one of my favorite fights. The second one was terrific as the first one. I was there for the second one.
Last question here. Well, not the
Yeah,
last, but probably the last. Ali
yeah.
Nadego, he says, Gustavo, I think having the Canelo versus Crawford fight on Netflix is a horrible decision because of the buffering from the Tyson versus Paul fight. What are your
Mhm.
thoughts?
I think Netflix Netflix most likely, in light of what happened during the Paul Tyson fight, they make the proper adjustments, right?
I hope.
To avoid having a similar scenario for a future event. I think they're going to be ready, and there's so much that they can do from a technology standpoint. They may have, if this fight gets the views similar like in Tyson and Jake Paul, I think they're going to take the proper steps to avoid having any difficulties as to the streaming or the live viewership. So I don't see that. That's even positive for the sport. It creates buzz, controversy, and it's like a marketing campaign.
For sure.
Yeah.
I got Treese in Ohio that says, "What's your thoughts on Dubois bypassing Parker and getting a Usyk rematch? Is that right?"
No, that he didn't bypass anybody. We ordered the mandatory, right? Parker against Usyk. We ordered the mandatory. We enforced the mandatory as we do, and the parties agreed on the unification. So the person that has the key to this to allow the unification is basically Parker. So most likely than not, Team Parker agreed as well on allowing the unification. On the flip side, the WBO established a provision when we sanctioned Usyk against Fury, the rematch, that we would reserve our right to render any future ruling that would best serve the interests of boxing. So, in other words, when there's a unification of this magnitude whereby we have undisputed again, in comparison to the mandatory, evaluating the totality of the circumstances, making a balance, the committee has also that power to say, you know what? Let's take a step back to the mandatory, allow the unification to reunify all the titles, have only one champion, and thereafter satisfy the mandatory. But we did what we said we were going to do, which was force the mandatory. You would need, or the fans would need to address to the teams from Dubois, Parker, and Usyk as to what happened that Parker um, is not facing Usyk. We order the fight, but if the parties have an agreement, including Parker, the WBO has no objection to that regard. But we ordered the mandatory.
Did they put in a petition to make that fight, to have you approve that fight?
Yes. Yeah. Team Usyk made a petition to allow the unification to take place prior to the mandatory. They did. Yes.
Man, it's like the number one contender is it's hard to get your shot in this business. It's hard to get your shot.
Not necessarily, Nestor. You have to also consider the totality of the circumstances. And would the general, I mean, the whole all the stakeholders of boxing, would they want to see the unification for the undisputed and have only one champion in that particular weight division, or would they rather see a mandatory take place instead of reunifying the titles? Well, some may say the mandatory, others may say the unification, but at the end of the day, the unification benefits everyone. And technically, a unification takes precedence over the mandatory. And if the WBO would have to consider that particular scenario, I'm very sure that the committee would say, you know what? The unification benefits all the stakeholders. It clarifies the division. It provides only one champion in the heavyweight division, which is the most important weight class in boxing historically, and would benefit all the fighters, the networks, the promoters, and even the mandatory challenger. Because I'm sure that Team Parker made, they made their probably they assessed the situation, and they made the decision that best serves their fighter, which is Parker.
I mean, but Parker himself questioned Dubois' withdrawal from the original fight, and the lack of medical proof or official statements for his alleged sickness. And
I
then all of
lack.
a sudden,
I
you're sick, and then next week you're in an undisputed fight. It just doesn't even look right. As the president, don't you think that doesn't look right?
I honestly I lack knowledge of the particulars pertaining to that scenario whereby Dubois got sick and he withdrew from the fight. I was there in Riyadh, and the information I got at that time was that prior to the weigh-in, he was physically unfit to proceed with the fight. And thereafter, remember that Queensberry has both fighters. Why wouldn't they want to do that fight, Parker and Dubois, in a big event? Because technically, the winner
Because
would be fighting.
the bigger fight is Usyk, undisputed. That's the bigger fight, the
Well,
bigger money fight too. You're gonna have Turkey
no,
Al
but
Sheikh putting
but but
finances.
but remember, regardless of who would be the winner between Parker and Dubois
Hmm.
and Dubois, the same promotional outlet would basically, it was an in-house fight.
Yeah, it's
If
a
it was
win-win for the
Parker,
promoter, Gustavo. But the issue is that it's not a win
yeah,
for Parker. The bigger fight is Dubois and Usyk because of the controversial body blow. But if Dubois loses to Parker, who was on a run, He had 6 scalps, like big
But
names.
we Nestor, I agree 100%. We order the fight.
But
You would need to
you
ask.
also approved the petition. It's like you ordered the fight, but you also said, yeah, if you want to fight Dubois, fight him. That's what you
No,
guys
remember,
did.
no. We did the following. Before Parker won the title, we had established certain conditions considering foreseeable scenarios, either a trilogy, a unification, because these scenarios are foreseeable, right? So Parker, his team knew these conditions, knew these terms, acknowledged them, fought for the title. When you fight under these conditions, you basically need to abide by them. We order the mandatory. Now, Team Parker has the key. If they didn't want to, if they wanted to go forward with the mandatory, he has the key to stop the unification. You would need to ask Team Parker.
All right, last one is
Yeah,
Octo. He's always so strange. What's your favorite
yeah.
movie? Do you have a favorite movie? Oh, we lost him.
Godfather.
Oh, Godfather. And
Godfather.
Yeah,
the last one is from Jonathan Sims. He says, as someone raising
yeah.
and guiding a young fighter towards the future in a professional
Mm.
boxing, what advice do you have for an independent boxer without the backing of a major promoter like the Top Ranks or the PBC on navigating the later stages of their amateur career and transitioning into the professional ranks in a way that
That,
positions them to get ranked eventually and fight for a world
that
title?
that's a great question, man. Get somebody that knows boxing, primarily a lawyer, and if it's a lawyer combined with the CPA, certified public accountant, you would have the best two worlds. And somebody that has good connections, credibility, respect, integrity, honesty, responsible, trustworthy. Um, and that knows the inner workings about boxing. That's I think that's key, man. Because in this business, you may not have all the talent and skill, but if you have the proper people behind you, you may have a shot. You know?
The super duper last one, just your thoughts on Manny Pacquiao coming back and being placed in number 5 in the WBC rankings. I feel like if Bud Crawford fights Canelo, win or lose, retires for 5 years, why wouldn't you, as the WBO president, rank him in the top whatever division he wants to come back to when he's been a WBO champion for like 20 years? Is there something wrong in what the WBC did?
As to Pacquiao's return, that's a very personal decision. I have no I have no particular opinion as to that decision making process. That's a very personal decision that he makes as to whether returning to the ring. As to being rated, at least in order to fight for a title in the WBO, you need to be rated, and in order to be rated, you need to be active. So per our rules, he cannot be rated. That's my position in the WBO.
But he's fought for so many WBO titles. None of
Yeah,
that
but I have
matters,
to.
like
But
legacy or
Nestor,
time
Nestor,
in with the
Nestor,
company.
Ne- Nestor, I have to follow the rules, man. I cannot enforce the rules one way for a fighter and disregard them for another fighter. If my rules require me that a fighter, in order to fight for a title, has to be active, and he's been inactive for 5 years, I cannot disregard that rule.
Can
If I do that,
Pacquiao
I set a bad precedent.
can Pacquiao
You know.
petition to the WBO to be heard? Like, I mean, if I'm standing in front of you, it's like, yo,
Absolutely.
okay.
Absolutely. He can petition to be heard, but I'm telling you that is a very strong it's going to be very likely that if he would be if he would petition to be rated, he would be denied because in order to be rated, you need to be active. He's been inactive for 5 years, so I cannot, regardless of how many titles he has won, his loyalty to the WBO. It's unfortunate, but those are the rules, man. I have to follow the rules.
I didn't think that would be. I thought for sure a guy like a Pacquiao. That's. I mean,
Yeah,
how many WBO titles has he had?
I have to check numerous.
Exactly. All right,
But
but that was the last question.
Nestor, remember, man, if if I remember, I'm the new guy. I got all eyes on me. Everyone's trying to see where I drop the ball. So I'm striving to make things, uh, do the best that I can correctly, properly, honestly, with integrity and honorable, keeping my word. I have to abide by my rules. That's why we have a legal framework. If I enforce the rules one way for this particular fighter and disregard them for the other fighter, how would I look, man? So I gotta be very careful to assess every situation on a case by case basis. On some instances, our rationale may not be, agreed upon by you, the media, the general public. On other instances, you guys may agree. Well, that's life, right? We're not perfect, but we have to strive to do things correctly. So that's at least that's my motto, man.
All right. No, appreciate your time as always, Gustavo. Thank you for coming on, and
Oh
yeah,
wait,
It
hold
man.
was a
on,
pleasure, man.
Gustavo. Can you break down the event I saw last weekend? I don't know if it was in Puerto Rico with Amanda Serrano, Jake Paul.
Oh,
What Jake Paul's doing for women's boxing is Hall of Fame worthy.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
event the event looked lit, man. Like I don't know, we all was outside. It looked like a vibe out there. I
Thank
saw
you,
the
man.
amateur.
Yeah, yeah.
Break that, break
Okay,
that down.
so okay, I'll break it down. What we did was I discussed with Amanda Serrano and her team about this concept to be called the Amanda Serrano's Championships, whereby we would institutionalize in Puerto Rico a an all amateur female tournament to provide these upcoming talents a platform to showcase their skills before the world under the Amanda Serrano tutelage, sponsored by the WBO, because it's one of our core missions to promote the systematic development of amateur boxing. So Amanda, who is in the twilight stage of her career, once she retires, she has this program under the WBO banner to guide these ladies who decide to eventually transition to the pro ranks, the proper way to conduct themselves, to do business. What are the things they need to be aware of from a professional fighter standpoint. So we did, I think it was 12 fights, 12 amateur fights, different ages, and we did the whole scenery in a place called the T-Mobile District here in San Juan, Puerto Rico, with the pink color themes, LED screens. We did like a little museum of Amanda Serrano memorabilia, like a semi-pro type of format, in a way which all the ladies had introductions with a little bit of fireworks and
Oh, nice.
video. And we gave them like a little WBO female championship belt with the word future champions and an Amanda Serrano little statue with medals. So it was, man, it was a resounding success. Better than what we expected. So she's very happy. And we're going to take this tournament, we're going to conduct it on a yearly basis. So the WBO will sponsor this, and next year we'll have other female talents coming internationally. And who knows, maybe Amanda Serrano has the eye on one of these talents for a future fighter under her banner.
Nice.
yeah,
Yeah,
man.
man.
Amateurs are the future
Yeah,
stars of tomorrow. Want to thank
that is
you.
true.
Obviously,
My
want to
pleasure,
thank
man.
you for coming on and always giving us the time to talk. Enjoy the rest of your day. If you want to give out your social media, please do, and appreciate you.
Yeah, everyone can find me at Olivieri Law. Olivieri, Olivieri, and law as in law, as in lawyer. And I appreciate you, Nestor, and your colleague. Whenever, whatever, and then always keep up the good work of questioning and inquiring about decisions and all that stuff. That's what we need: transparency, honesty, and integrity in the sport. And if when we make the things right, we get our props, and then when we do things incorrectly, we get criticized. But we're here to try to do the best of what we can with what we have, man. Okay.
Nah, man, you did great. I thought I was prepared. I was wrong about Xander. You were right. So, credit.
Thanks, boss
Appreciate
man.
you. All right.
Peace, peace.
There you have